so many reincarnation stories, but it's always interesting when it has to do with a celebrity because that's what I talk about. So today we're going to talk about the little 5-year-old boy who says he's Princess Diana reincarnated. So all started when the little boy was 2. Someone gave his mom a card with Princess Diana on it. Previous to this, they had never talked about Princess Diana. When he saw the card, he pointed to it and said, look, that's me when I was a princess. At first, they didn't think anything of it. They thought he was just being clever. But as time went on, he has so much info on Diana that like they never knew. And when he would see Prince Harry and Prince Charles in pictures, he would say, those are my sons, and kept referring to them as my children, my sons. They showed him a lot of different pictures of like different castles, but he pointed to the correct home of Princess Diana. Then he said something about like unicorns, and there was a room that had like unicorn, I guess, wallpaper or whatever. He said, one day I was a princess and then there were sirens and then I just wasn't a princess anymore. He also talked about his little brother John, which he didn't have. But after lots of research, they found out Princess Diana had a little brother who had passed away as an infant named John. There's so many similar stories like this, so follow for more.
All I needed was that one person to motivate me to keep going, so here's another past life story. This one is about this set of sisters, 11-year-old Joanna and 6-year-old Jacqueline, who, along with their 9-year-old friend Anthony, were killed after being struck by an erratic driver on their way to church. Unfortunately, the girls died almost immediately after impact, and poor Anthony died on his way to the hospital. The erratic driver was a woman who actually did this on purpose after being forcibly removed from her own children not long before. The parents of Jacqueline and Joanna were, as you can imagine, devastated. Their mother, Florence, actually became pregnant not long after the girls' deaths, and their father, John, was convinced that his daughters were going to come back through this birth. He said that his wife was going to have a set of twins, and they were going to be the reincarnated girls, Jacqueline and Joanna. Florence was like, yeah, right. One, they were devout Catholics. She did not believe in reincarnation at all. There was also no history of twins on either of their families. And the doctor was telling her that this was a single birth. So she didn't believe anything that her husband was saying, whatever, brushed it off. Well, 9 months later, she gave birth to a set of twins, a set of twin baby girls. Meet Jillian and Jennifer. When the girls were just 3 months old, the family actually relocated to another town east of where they were currently living. And when the girls were about 4 years old, they moved back to the town that they were born in, the same town that Jacqueline and Joanna were killed in. When they got back to this town, Jennifer and Jillian started pointing out landmarks that they had never seen, but they were naming them off like they remembered them, including the school that Jacqueline and Joanna had gone to, as well as their favorite playground that they loved to play at. Shortly after this, they started asking Florence if they could have their toys back as if they owned them. And she never planned on giving these toys to them. She had them hidden away. But she did distribute them to them, just like they asked, and they separated these toys and played with them as if they were Jacqueline and Joanna. They even had the same names for these toys and remembered everything about them from before. Florence still wasn't convinced. John knew that these were his reincarnated girls. They had the same personality traits, the same behaviors. So Joanna used to be very overprotective of Jacqueline as she was the older sister. And they had those same traits in them. Even though they were only 10 minutes apart, the older one would act as she was much older. Now, Florence was finally convinced that these were her reincarnated daughters when she walked in on them playing car accident, and they were reenacting the accident that Jacqueline and Joanna were killed in. Even laying down, holding one another's head and saying, this is where the blood was coming out. Do you think that these were her reincarnated daughters?
Nope, this is not just a girl, and millions of people are terrified saying she is someone we were never supposed to see. This little girl named Dorothy Edy caused fear in millions as she was able to predict horrific events before scientists even knew about it, and she has never been wrong. At 4 years old, Dorothy fell downstairs, and when she was brought to the doctors, Dorothy didn't make it. But after just an hour, the parents' face turned white as Dorothy was fine, awake, and happily jumping around. Or so they thought. However, Dorothy was never the same ever again, as her accent completely shifted and she kept talking about wanting to go someplace she called home while she was literally at home. Not long after, Dorothy was brought to a museum, and when at the Egyptian section, Dorothy said she recognized every ancient structure and mummy in that room by name, uttering the eerie words, "This is my home and family." Dorothy ended up taking a trip to the Temple of Seti in Egypt and claimed this is where she lived. Every place the historian mentions Dorothy was able to go to without making a single mistake. At one point, she points to an empty courtyard and said there was a garden there, to which when archaeologists dug it up, that is what they found. Many historians worked for years trying to disprove how Dorothy knew everything, and not a single one of them has been able to do so. So do you think she is reincarnated?
When he describes it, to me it's McCade. This is happening to him.
And what seems to be happening is that when you first die, your consciousness becomes expansive, and they travel at the speed of thought. And so this is just happening as they've died, and they're just recalibrating and understanding their new abilities as a sovereign soul. And what happens every time? A deceased relative, or a spirit guide, or an angel, or Jesus Christ, or Buddha. And so what these near-death experiences will experience is whatever type of being that would have the most influence on them appears. A 15-foot Jesus appears to a Christian, and then starts showing them a life review of their entire life, picking specific areas, usually that have to do with fear, guilt, or shame. And that's what happens in these transitional spaces with these beings of light. They're always pointing out these areas where you didn't do the best, and then giving you the opportunity to reincarnate. And ultimately, it's always getting you to consent to going back into the light and then getting reincarnated into a new body. What always goes along with that is the memory wipe. And this is so contrary to what they're saying, because they say that, oh, life is a school, oh, it's all about karma, oh, this world, all the negative stuff is so you can learn and grow from it.
If you can't remember it,
how
then
can you grow
learn?
if you can't remember it? Exactly. It's more like they are harnessing some type of energy that, or our souls, our consciousness, they want us here, when in reality, once we leave this body, we become way more powerful. It's like our real being is intangible. It's an immortal soul, and we're being tricked to coming into this body in this subpar realm, this subpar dimension ruled by evil psychopaths. And even when we die, we get tricked to coming back in here rather than exploring the potentially infinite multiverse of much better dimensions that are most likely out there.
In the car, and she says, "Mommy, this is just like where I died." Like, real excited, not upset or anything, just kind of very matter of fact. And
at 2 years old?
Yeah, she was about 2 3/4.
So then you say, honey, you didn't die.
I said, well, Leah, what are you talking about? She goes, she says, I was in my car and it fell off the bridge in the water and I died. And so I pulled off the road because I was a little stressed. And she said, and I said, well, where was Mama? And she said, you weren't with me that time. Which
this is what your 2-year-old said.
Yeah, she did. That got the exclamation points going. And I said, well, who was driving the car then? And she said, I was big. I could reach the pedals. And she has no clue that you need pedals to drive a car. She's 2. She's in the car seat. You know, there's like no way she could know that. And I said, well, what happened? And she described, she said, well, I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And she is absolutely a fanatic about seatbelts. Everyone in our presence that knows us, she is going to make sure they have a seatbelt on. She will not get in the car without one. And neither will anyone else. And she said, well, I didn't have my seatbelt on, and I fell out of the car. And she said, and she put her hand up on her, and she said, Mommy, I was laying on the rocks. I could feel the rocks on my head. And she said, and see the shiny bridge. And she points up. She's looking up. And she says, see the shiny bridge and the bubbles going up. She could see the bubbles. And she has she has never seen television at that point in her life at all. And how would she have any knowledge of bubbles rising? You know, she doesn't swim. She doesn't put her face in the water. And she said, I could see the bubbles going up and see the sun on the bridge through the water.
This is what your 2-year-old told you?
Yeah.
The body you occupied in your past life is buried somewhere.
Believe it or not, but this is true. Hi, my name is Yanisha, and I am a psychic medium. I was told when I was pregnant with my 4th child that I have a family member that left a while ago, and they will be reincarnating on Earth, but within my baby's body. I was asked if I could find out who it was, and I was told no, this is a gift for me honoring my spiritual journey, advancing in my gifts, and showing my gifts to the world and helping them all heal as well. I was still curious on who this was going to be. She did tell me that she could let me know that the energy was of a grandmother, and I had a few grandmothers that left, so I wasn't quite sure who she was talking about. So I connected with all my children in the past, and I decided, well, I connected with them. I found out everything about them, their personalities, who they were, and everything. Why not try it with her? I decided to go ahead and connect with my baby girl, and she gave me nothing at all. So at that point, that's when I knew this is something that I am not supposed to know. I need to sit back and be patient. It was really hard, but I decided to go ahead and do that. I forgot everything that my spiritual friend had told me. It comes the day when I have my baby girl, and the energy in the room was amazing. I have never felt any energy like that. It's almost like when she came out, I was missing her. I haven't seen you in so long. You know, where have you been? And I've had 3 other children, and these other children that I've never felt this type of energy. It's like when you have a new baby, so new, let me learn so much about you. With her, this was like, I know you, and you know me, and I really, really miss you. Give me a hug. It was so strange, and the energy was very strong. So when I decided to finally go ahead and post a picture of my baby girl, everyone was saying how angelic, how her energy was out of this world, how they could not explain anything of how, like, who is she? People would say how my great grandmother, that she looked like her, and I would get those things, and I'm like, you know, she do. My baby girl was supposed to have been born in December, and this being my 4th child, we thought that she was going to come a little earlier. No, she actually stayed in there longer, and I didn't have her until January 3rd. I did not connect the dots at first. As I said, I forgot about what my spiritual friend said. My great grandmother that passed away, that was like a mother to me. She took care of me, everything I knew. She taught me. She passed away in 2015, and it crushed me. When she left this earth, it was like a part of me left. But she left at 90 years old, and I understand I had to accept that this was the way that life worked. But ultimately, just like many of us, I just was not ready. I was not attuned into my spiritual gifts or had my awakening until 2018. So I was not aware that I could connect to her, because prior to that, I was a Christian, and we aren't taught those things. If anything, we are taught to fear that, stay away from those things. When I had my spiritual awakening in 2018, that's when it was a game changer. I was able to connect to her and to so many more people. So I was able to connect to my grandmother all the time in the astral realm. Whenever I was ready, I went to sleep. And, you know, once you get the hang of this, you could go anywhere you want in the astral world. And my choice was always to go to my grandmother, and, of course, some other places, sometimes some past lives or things of that nature. But we could talk about that in a different topic. I started to wonder why she waited to come into January, but I still wasn't connecting. It wasn't until everybody else was saying things. Fast forward now, I decided that I wanted to go ahead and connect with my grandmother. I realized I had my baby girl. I haven't saw her in an astral plane in a while when I go to sleep. You know, I haven't talked to her, I haven't communicated her. I needed to talk to her last night. So I'm super emotional because this just happened, literally. I talked to her. I went to sleep, set my intentions to talk to her last night, and I got nothing. That never happens with me. Whatever I set my intentions with, I go, I travel. I'm very gifted. I understand how my gifts go. I got nothing. So I woke up super emotional, and I connected to my spiritual team and asked them, what is going on? Why haven't I spoken to my grandmother? Why haven't I seen her? I need to hug her. I miss her. And they told me, she's right there with you. Well, yes, I know they're all here with me, was my thought. And they said, take a look at your babies. She chose to be there with you. I still was not understanding what they were saying by that. So she chose to be here with me, but so I said, wait, are you saying that she's here physically? They said she chose to be there in a physical form with you. She chose. Then this is when things are getting much deeper, because I've never experienced this before in this lifetime anyways. So she chose to be here with me, and they said to check out your babies. I have a 3-year-old and I have an infant, and I said, okay, well, is it my baby boy? And they said no, which I kind of figured it wasn't him. I didn't feel that type of energy. I said, is it my baby girl? And immediately started to click. My great grandmother was born in January in 1925. She also left this earth in January in 2015. My baby girl was supposed to have been born in December. She decided to wait and stay in the oven a lot longer. And she came in January of 2023. She acts like my grandmother. She gives off the energy, and you know baby girl has been here before. I immediately started crying because it started connecting, and that's when I started to remember what my spiritual friend said. It all started to connect, and I said, wait, was this her? The person that I needed, the person that had left me, and I didn't know what to do. I feel so lost. Is she really here with me? After I got done crying and connecting everything and just confirming it, knowing that this is her, I decided to get up and grab my baby girl. When I grabbed my baby girl, I decided to go in there and grab the picture of my great-grandmother. I've never showed it to her before. She's 11 months old now. She just turned 11 months old on the 3rd. I showed a picture not thinking I'm going to get much of a reaction because, I mean, she's a Capricorn. She don't react much. If she don't understand or know what she's looking at, don't expect nothing from her. If you know how Capricorns are, that's it. She's always straight-faced it most of the time. So immediately when I pull this picture out, she lights up and she starts smiling. I've never showed her before. And I'm like, okay. Then she takes her baby hand and she starts to rub against across her face on the picture. And she kept doing it. And I'm just like, okay, Anisha, wait, let's see what's going on. My baby grabs the picture with her little baby hand and she puts the picture on her mouth and kisses it. At that moment, I lost it. I said, this is my great grandmother. I've been needing a hug. I've been needing a kiss. And you're telling me you're right here. But now it's at this point to wait, how does this work? Because now you're my baby girl. You chose to reincarnate. You chose to reincarnate and come back here with me. You chose to be that gift for me. Do you know how grateful I am? Now I have to get used to it because I know when I go to bed, I can always go and visit my grandmother. I could talk to her when I needed to. She always I seen some stuff. She taught me to sing stuff. She taught me things physically, mentally, and spiritually when she was here. And she continued to do that when she left. To know now that she continued to come back and reincarnate and be my baby girl and give me the ability to raise her, to take care of her, has had me just, I've learned this today. I've been emotional. I've been crying all day because I'm very, very grateful. My baby girl is 11 months. She has her personality. She has everything about her. You know, let me know if you would like to see some pictures of my great-grandmother and some pictures of her. It is mind-blowing. The energy and everything is just mind-blowing. This is her. So yes, a body that you occupied in a past life is here on earth. I am a living witness. My great-grandmother that died at 90 years old in 2015 in January, and she was always also born in January, she decided to come back and be my baby girl and be born in January again, but of 2023.
After takeoff from the New Orleans airport, and it crashed into a neighborhood.
Here's a crazy story. Something apart from the divine totality. So without the consent of the Most High, she gave birth to the Demiurge by procreating with herself. And then, being ashamed of doing this, she wrapped it in a cloud, the Demiurge, and created a throne within the cloud. And according to the Gnostics, this is where the whole physical world is. And this Demiurge is what keeps us trapped here unless we can escape the trap. And the trap is ran by the Demiurge itself, with the assistance of its servants called the Archons. So then the goal of human life is liberation from the physical world and the cycle of reincarnation to return to the divine source, often referred to as pleroma or something like that. This happens when the soul reaches a form of awakening or enlightenment. And this is actually in disagreement with Christianity because according to Christians, God created the world and everything in its highest form. While in Gnosticism, it says that an off-brand God did it instead. And the Gnostics are the only tradition that I could find that depicts the whole reality as kind of being like this messed up creation and an inherently evil or ignorant God created it. But that also depends on the date of the tradition because the Gnostic belief even changed over time. It depends on what text you're looking at. But as far as I could find, there was no mention of a white light that you needed to avoid in order to kind of stop this reincarnation cycle from happening. Damn, that's heavy. Yeah, but that's not the full story. Because we've also got to talk about reincarnation in Hinduism and Buddhism because some people see that as a trap too. And you'll see things on the internet saying things like, escape the cycle of samsara. And then we keep having to come back here in Earth in different bodies until we escape the cycle of karma. But it's usually people that are not actually in those philosophies and traditions that see it that way. From my research, most Hindus and Buddhists don't see it as a trap at all, set by a malevolent being. There's no way that happened. Yeah, the whole trap thing is not really relevant but it's more seen as a natural process driven by ignorance, desire, and the effect of one's actions or their karma. And in one of their holy books, the Bhagavad Gita, it reads, "One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arunha." Excuse me, you probably scoffed at that pronunciation. And the context of this is that it's Krishna explaining to Arunha that understanding the divine nature of life and activities can lead to liberation from the cycle of rebirth, implying that the knowledge and understanding are key to transcending the cycle of reincarnation. Which is interesting because it hints at the same thing that the Gnostics did, the same things that they thought the same things, which is that having some form of enlightenment stops the cycle of reincarnation. But these differ from the Gnostics because there's not an inherently evil or impure God at all that created the physical world, according to the Hindus and Buddhists. Also, in these traditions, there's no mentions of not going into the white light and that you can somehow escape the cycle of reincarnation by not going into it. So this white light trap thing doesn't seem to be anything that is rooted in ancient tradition. But hold on, let's go to a different part of the world. I'll paint the picture for you. In ancient Greece, Plato, 400 BCE, he wrote a book called The Republic, and it's something called the myth of air, which is a tale of souls being reincarnated on Earth after choosing their next life. The concept of a cycle of rebirth could be interpreted as a trap, although this really isn't how, if you read The Republic, he really framed it. In the book, a soldier dies in battle and comes back to life on his funeral pyre and tells the tale of the afterlife, called the myth of air. So he travels to the place where souls face judgment for their actions during this lifetime. And those who have done evil are punished, and those who lived virtuous lives are rewarded. After this judgment, souls are sent to a place, or led to a place, to choose their next life based on their desires and what they've learned from their past lives. And after choosing their next life, the souls drink from the river of Lethe, or river of forgetfulness, which causes them to forget their experiences in the afterlife and their past lives before they reincarnate. The drinking of the river of Lethe could be seen as a metaphor for the human condition of ignorance regarding the soul's true nature in the bigger cosmic picture. Oh, so we're trapped here and shit. No. Oh no. We're trapped here. You just farted. There's no way you farted. What are you doing? Get out of here, fart master. You'll be surprised where this goes. I did some digging around the internet, which I love to do. And I found out who the actual people spreading this white light part and the trap part around were. Who are the major players? And most of the names of them are channels which don't really have a real name. They're just text-to-speech YouTube channels from years ago, and random Reddit forums are like, don't go in the light, don't go, it's a trap-up. There's not really anything to it. But there is one name that you would probably expect to be at the center of something like this. And so here's a picture of his.
I wish I could be a pirate again.
You do?
Yeah.
When were you a pirate?
I was a long time ago when you weren't alive, and then I shrunk into a little kid. And I never could be a pirate again.
What did you just say about my daddy?
I was your daddy.
What?
I was your daddy.
You were my daddy?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, your daddy turned into a kid.
My daddy turned into a kid?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, he didn't die.
He didn't die?
Nope.
Oh, he turned into Oliver?
Yeah. Jelly goofy. Baby, and yours a baby. You took care of us.
She took care of us?
I remember that. Was that kind of your mom?
Was she my mom?
Yeah. I remember her. I just miss her.
You do?
He just died. Why?
She died?
Did your mom die?
My mom died, yeah.
Me too. My mom died.
Yours did?
When I was a baby.
Yeah.
I had parents, but they died too. I had to go.
So this is one of the stories that really got me in the reincarnation, and I know for a fact that this stuff is true. So I was watching the story of this little boy. He was actually born a white little boy, and he kept telling his mom that he liked jazz, so I guess he enjoyed jazz music. And also he kept telling his mom that he died before, and when he in his previous life he was a black woman. And then his mom started, questioning stuff, and eventually she started believing her son because there are certain stuff that he was doing that he couldn't have known about. So this is why, like, I think that parents should believe their children, because children are like little human, like little adults. Anyway, so for example, with me, like, I would go to my nieces and nephews and ask them how I look and if I should go out looking like this, because kids will not lie to you. They will tell you the truth. Anyway, so then she ended up finding the story of a woman who jumped out of a window, a black woman who jumped out of a window. And I think it happened in Chicago, where there was a fire in the house and she jumped out of the window and she died. And come to find out, she actually found his family, or her family, in Chicago. And indeed, they were able to meet up and had the little boy do some tests with different pictures, and they had a picture of the lady, and the lady actually enjoyed playing the piano, and I think the little boy was learning to play the piano or something. But everything that the lady liked, he liked. So then they put a bunch of pictures in front of him so he can pick which one was her, and they put like a bunch of different ones, and then they put one of her, and he went and picked the exact same picture. He was saying that I know this picture looked familiar, and da da da. He was basically saying because he knew. But as a child, of course, it did take him a little while to pick the picture, but he picked the exact picture. The first picture he chose was of the black lady who basically jumped to her death after being stuck in a burning house, and she ended up dying. But eventually she left his body, because sometimes I think the person, the soul, can leave your body. So eventually she did left his body, so now he's just a little boy again, so he can grow up and be his own person. But she was born with him. It's weird. And she was like a black woman. And when the mom asked him, what color were you, he says black, duh, as if like his mom is supposed to know that he was black, which to me was so fascinating. That story was actually what really got me into really searching. I've always had questions about reincarnation, but that story had me searching, and that's when I came across Dolores Cannon and Never Got Her and all that other stuff. So I've been like in the rabbit hole of that for the longest now, and that is the reason why I do believe in reincarnation. Anyway, that's a little story that I want to share with you guys, because that's what really got me really, really, really getting into reincarnation. And at this point, I believe any and everything about it.
So I know I have told this story of my daughter telling me she had another mom before me, but now I have the story. When she was 5, she told me, let's pretend that you're my real mom. I was like, I am your real mom, like biologically. She's like, no, silly. You're my new mom. My real mom died a long, long, long time ago. And then I came back, and now you're my new mom. So like a year or so ago, I questioned her, like, do you remember that family? She's like, yeah. I said, okay, tell me some details. Like, what happened? How'd you die? She's like, my dad's name was Samuel. I can't remember my mom's name, but it kind of like ended in like Tina, maybe like Christina, Valentina, something like that. She said, I died in 1942 in a car accident. We were turning left, and I was sitting all the way on like the right side, the passenger side. And she had a brother and a sister, and they were sitting middle and outside. Not outside. Driver's side. And they turned, but they didn't see that a vehicle was coming, and the vehicle hit her side and killed her and her mom because her dad was driving. So I know not to just like take a child's word for what it is, but like I do like note it and move on. So I went to my phone, typed all those details. That way, like, she's making this BS up, I'm gonna catch her in a lie.
want to say like last year. Like she's 9 now. So I asked her probably last year, so when she was 8. Do you remember the story about like your past life? Do you remember any of it that you told me? And she was like, yeah, I remember some stuff. It's still kind of fuzzy, but yeah, I remember. Mind you, over a year has passed since that story. So I go in my phone notes and I look over it and then I ask again, like, what do you remember? Knowing damn well she ain't gonna remember that. She said, I died in 1942 in a car accident. We were turning and a car hit my side of the car. And I died and my mom died, but my dad and my brother and sister lived. So I said, why didn't y'all have seatbelts on? This kid looked at me and said, there were no seatbelts back then. What? Like, take it how you want. She ain't making that shit up. She's not. I mean, you can say she was, but she's not.
When you look into reincarnation, you discover something that the ancients knew. In a lot of cases, you come back with no memories, and as you grow consciously over time, coming back over and over again, you begin to realize you can regain or access some of those memories. So some people become what they call adept initiates. That's what Thoth called them in the Emerald Tablets. I wrote about this in my book. And he's talking about having the ability to come back with the memories and also to incarnate at will. He says he can even incarnate on any dimension that he desires.
Wow.
So he's gotten to that level. So there seems to be levels to the game, but in the startup level, it seems like a person has to keep coming back over and over again, but they seem to in some ways get more mature in different areas as they continue to come back. It's almost like a way of teaching somebody to become better and higher knowledge without giving them any kind of clue and kind of almost letting them find their way. So it's an experiment.
Yeah.
And I think that the grand experiment is how many souls can rise to that higher level of consciousness to get to a higher dimension.
These people you see in this video believe that this boy right here is a reincarnation of a supposed god that passed away 13 years ago. And the person they supposedly believe he's a reincarnation of is this guy right here, Sathya Sai Baba. He actually passed away in 2011. He was born in 1926 in India, and his followers said that he could do resurrections and that he was also omnipotent. But his doubters said that everything that he did was fake and not supernatural. But apparently that last guy, Sathya Baba, was a reincarnation of this guy, Sai Baba, that passed away in 1918. And this is the boy they believe is the new reincarnation of Sathya Baba. They apparently want to name him Perma Sai Baba. But the problem is that everybody thought that this guy was going to come in 2030 and not 2024. And chat, just because I made this video doesn't mean that I necessarily have to believe in it. I believe in Jesus because he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Do I believe in reincarnation? Well, I didn't at first, but that was very, very, very long ago when I was younger. But then I remembered how I used to literally remember everything when I was like a baby. I remember like I was maybe a year old or something, and I can remember any and everything that happened while I was a year old. So I know for a fact that I was more advanced, like knowledge, since I was like a baby. So then I ended up getting a past life reading from someone, and I swear to you, everything that they told me shocked me. It really shocked me to the point where they even told me how in my previous life, I got like 3 past life readings, from 3 different people, and one of them said that my previous life, I was actually taken out at a very, very young age. I'd say like 18, and I was basically pushed off a mountain. And actually where I used to live in Haiti, we had a house that was on a mountain. So that makes sense, not just because we lived in a house on a mountain, but because I've always been so afraid of height. Like, it's not something that I don't do, like heights or roller coasters, none of that. I've always had that fear, and I never know why I was afraid of it, so then it all started to make sense. And then I got another reading where it basically told me like how I am, the way that I date makes sense because in my previous life I was of royalty and all that stuff, and it makes sense because like I've always felt like I was an old soul, like I don't belong on this this planet, this universe. Basically, how like when you are into like old fashioned stuff, like for example my house is basically stepping into like the Bridgerton stepping like into the Bridgerton era. So I enjoy those. My decorations are very like old fashioned, gilded age kind of stuff because I even have a record player. I have a record player because I actually like those things. And I also believe that because I had a younger sibling that passed like right before I was born, I think I was reincarnated into her. And even my mom, I told my mom this story and she was kind of shocked the things that I was telling her, that only she would know, or my sisters who were born before would know. So I don't know why I would know these things. So yeah, and it had a lot to do with my baby sister or older sister that had passed way before I was born. So I felt like I was a reincarnation of her. And I started learning from Dolores Cannon that before you come to this universe, you pick the parents that you want to be born into, and you pick the friends that you're going to have, you pick the people that you're going to be in love with, and the soul ties you're going to have, you pick those. So everyone that come into your life are people that you have a contract with. So now I do believe it, because after reading so much about it and watching so many videos about it, you couldn't convince me that reincarnation is not real. So it's really up to debate. Like, you can decide your own decision. You can make your own decisions on that. I'm not here to force anybody to believe about any reincarnation, but I do believe, in my opinion, that reincarnation is real. And it's not something like in my culture, it's not something that they really believe or we really believe, but a lot of times you just have to do your own research, because a lot of things that we believe in, I had to do my research and read about why we believe in that. And also the things that we are afraid of, I had to redo my research to why we're afraid of those things. And now the fear is gone, because when you realize that the reason why you're afraid is not really a very good reason, it's only because you don't know the stuff. That's why you're afraid of it. So then once I learned that, everything just became so much easier, so much nicer. And yeah, so yeah, I don't know. You can decide your own thing. You let me know what you think about reincarnation. But after seeing all of the stories and after getting so many, my 3 past life readings, which resonate with me so much, so well, and those were like professional readers, I knew that reincarnation is a real thing. And it's beautiful when you learn about it, honestly. So anyway, I hope to see you guys in the next video.